Have you ever had that feeling that something important is about to happen, but you don't quite know what? Well, get ready, because what I'm going to reveal today could completely change your view of the world. 7 powerful prophecies that are unfolding right now, before our eyes. And the last one? Well, it contains a challenge that very few people are able to accomplish. If you are tired of feeling lost, not knowing what the future holds, this video is for you. I'll show you how these prophecies can make sense of the chaos we see around us, and more importantly, how you can prepare for what's to come. Don't miss a single second. Every word here could be the key to understanding your role in these crucial times. Are you ready? Prophecy 1, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. On July 13, 2024, the world witnessed an event that will go down in history. Donald Trump, a polarizing and influential figure in American politics, nearly lost his life in an assassination attempt that almost changed the course of the nation. Can you imagine the chaos that would have ensued if the shot had been on target? By mere centimeters and milliseconds, the history of the United States nearly took a completely different turn. The bullet passed so close that it grazed Trump's right ear, leaving a blood mark that would become the center of intense speculation and interpretation. The incident occurred in Butler, Pennsylvania, a place that at first glance seems to have no special significance. But there's something intriguing about this name. Butler comes from the Old French boutelier, which means cupbearer or holder of the cup. In the Bible, the cupbearer had a crucial role to protect the king or ruler from assassination attempts, especially through poisoning. Isn't it amazing how even the name of the place where it all happened seems to have a profound meaning, as if it were a sign that there was divine protection acting at that moment? Trump himself stated that he was saved by the grace of Almighty God. Think about it. The Secret Service, trained to protect the president at all costs, failed, but something or someone intervened at the last second, causing Trump to turn his head at the exact fraction of a second so that the bullet would not hit a fatal point. After the shot, Trump fell to his knees with his face on the ground. Some may see this merely as a security measure, but others interpret it as a sign of forced humility before God. The man many see as one of the most powerful leaders in the world, literally on his knees, as if bowing before a higher power. This event makes us reflect on the fragility of life and how we are all just one heartbeat away from eternity. No matter how powerful or influential we may be, we all depend on something greater than ourselves. The blood on Trump's ear generated comparisons with biblical rituals of consecration of priests. In Leviticus, we read about the ritual where blood was placed on the tip of the right ear, the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of the right foot of the priest. Interestingly, Trump touched his bloodied ear with his right hand, creating an involuntary parallel with this ancient ritual. Some interpret this as a call for Trump, and perhaps for the American nation as a whole, to consecrate themselves to God, as if this event were a warning, a moment of spiritual awakening. Regardless of your political or religious beliefs, it is undeniable that this event profoundly marked not only Trump, but the entire American nation. It reminds us that life is fragile, and that there may be greater forces at play than we can comprehend. What do you think about all this? Do you see any special meaning in this event? Or do you consider it just a coincidence? How do you think this might affect the future of American politics and the people's views on leadership and spirituality? This first prophecy is really impressive, isn't it? What happened to Trump that day seems to have a much greater significance than we imagined. But you know what? This is just the tip of the iceberg. Before we continue, I want to share something special with you. I prepared an exclusive guide on biblical prophecies that will help you understand better everything we are talking about here. The link is in the first pinned comment. Take a quick look, because we have a few copies available. Now, get ready. The next prophecy will leave you astounded. Remember we talked about the biblical significance of the event with Trump? Well, it goes much deeper than you might think. Prophecy 2, the biblical meaning of the event. Have you ever stopped to think that sometimes the most striking events of our lives can have a much deeper meaning than we realize? It's as if the universe conspires to send us messages through coincidences that seem impossible to mere chance. And that's exactly what happened on that fateful day, July 13th, 2024, when the bullet grazed Trump's ear, leaving that blood mark. Something much larger than a simple assassination attempt was happening. It was as if the pages of the Bible were coming to life before our eyes, without most of us noticing. Have you heard about the consecration of the priests in the Old Testament? It is there in Leviticus, a book that often seems distant and full of strange rituals to us. But at that moment, those ancient words took on a new meaning. In the consecration of the priests, Moses had to take a bit of the sacrificial blood and place it on the tip of the right ear of Aaron and his sons. Does that sound familiar? That's exactly where Trump's blood was that day, but it doesn't stop there. After marking the ear, Moses was to place the blood on the thumb of the right hand and on the big toe of the right foot of the priest. And what did Trump do right after being hit? He brought his right hand to his bloodied ear, probably staining his thumb in the process. Now you might be thinking, but what about the foot? Trump was wearing shoes. Well, this is where things get even more interesting. When Trump fell after the shot, his shoes were removed. This may seem like an unimportant detail, but in the consecration of the priests, they were barefoot during the ritual. And there's more. All this happened on a Saturday, 2 days before the convention that would nominate Trump as the presidential candidate. In the Bible, the consecration of the priests lasted 7 days. If we count the day of the incident and the days until the convention, we have exactly that period. Are you starting to see the pattern here? It's as if an invisible hand was orchestrating all these details to show us something greater. But what does all this mean? Are we witnessing a kind of modern consecration? Trump is not a priest in the biblical sense, but he is a figure of leadership. Could this event be a call for him, and perhaps for the entire nation, to consecrate itself to a greater purpose? Think about it. In the Bible, consecration was a moment of transformation. The priest completely dedicated himself to serving God and the people. Is that what is being asked of Trump and America? The ear marked with blood could symbolize the need to hear God's voice, the hand, the importance of acting according to divine will, and the bare feet, the humility necessary to walk on sacred ground. Of course, all this may seem like a big coincidence to some, but what if it's not? What if we are facing a crucial moment in history, a moment that demands that we pay attention to the signs around us? Regardless of your political or religious beliefs, it is undeniable that this event makes us reflect on the role of leadership, on our responsibility as citizens, and on the possibility of a greater calling in our lives. What do you think? Are we really witnessing the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy? Or are we just seeing patterns where none exist? In any case, we cannot deny that this event makes us think about our place in the world and what really matters in our lives. And you? Have you ever had a moment in your life that seemed to have a greater meaning? Something that could not be explained as mere coincidence? Share your story in the comments. Let's talk about those experiences that make us question if there is something more happening beyond what our eyes can see. Prophecy 3, the sequence of events. Have you ever stopped to think how sometimes the events of life seem to follow an almost supernatural script? It's as if someone is orchestrating everything behind the scenes, isn't it? Well, what happened to Donald Trump on that fateful day, July 13th, 2024, seems exactly like that. A sequence of events so precise that it makes us question if something bigger is at play. Let's go back to that moment. The bullet just grazed Trump's ear. Chaos ensues. And then, as if following a divine script, Trump reacts in a way that seems to echo an ancient ritual described in the pages of the Bible. First, we have the blood on the ear. It's not just any ear, it's the right ear. Does that ring a bell? In the consecration of the priests, as described in Leviticus, blood was placed on the lobe of the right ear. Coincidence? Perhaps, but wait, there's more. The next step in this cosmic dance is fascinating. Trump instinctively brings his right hand to his injured ear. He touches the blood with the thumb of his right hand. Once again, this echoes the biblical ritual. where blood was placed on the thumb of the right hand of the priest. And it doesn't stop there. When Trump falls to the ground, his shoes are removed. Seems like an insignificant detail, right? Wrong. In the consecration of the priests, they stood barefoot during the ritual. Blood was placed on the big toe of the right foot. With Trump barefoot and blood everywhere, it's hard not to make the connection. Now you might be thinking, that's a lot of coincidence. And you would be right to question. But what if it's not a coincidence? What if each of these steps, the blood on the ear, the hand touching the blood, the bare feet, were part of a larger plan? Think about it. In the Bible, this sequence of events marked the beginning of a priest's ministry. It was the moment he was set apart for a sacred purpose. Could it be that, in that moment of extreme danger, Trump was being consecrated for a greater purpose? Sure, Trump is not a priest in the biblical sense, but he is a leader. And perhaps at that moment, he was being called to something beyond ordinary politics. Maybe this was a calling to lead with a sense of divine purpose. But it doesn't stop there. Remember I mentioned this happened on a Saturday? Well, in Jewish tradition, each Saturday has a specific Torah reading designated for that day. And guess what the reading for that specific Saturday was? It was about Aaron's son, one of the consecrated priests, returning to the place of his consecration. It's as if time itself was aligned for this moment, as if the Jewish calendar established millennia ago was pointing to this specific event. And there's more. After everything happened, Trump did something that seems insignificant, but echoes once again the ancient ritual. He raised his right hand, the hand that touched the blood, and waved to the crowd. In the biblical consecration, the priest made a similar hand gesture, a presentation gesture to the people. Now, you might be wondering, what does all this mean? Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Could it be that this event was not just about politics or an attempted assassination? Could it be that we were witnessing something deeper, more significant? Perhaps this is a call not just for Trump, but for the entire nation. A call for a greater purpose, for a leadership that goes beyond party politics, a call to serve with a sense of divine mission. Or perhaps it's a reminder for all of us, a reminder that our lives can change in an instant, and that maybe we should live each moment with a sense of sacred purpose. What do you think? Do you see a greater meaning in this sequence of events? Or do you think they are just coincidences? How does this change your view on leadership and purpose in life? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about how we can find a sense of greater purpose in our own lives, regardless of our political or religious beliefs. These first three prophecies are truly impressive, aren't they? The timing, the biblical meaning, the sequence of events. Everything seems to fit together in an almost supernatural way. But before we move on to the fourth prophecy, I want to know, had you heard about these things before? Did any of them sound familiar to you? Share in the comments. And don't go away now, because what comes next is even more surprising. Remember we talked about the timing of events? Well, the next prophecy will show you how every detail seems to have been carefully planned. Get ready, because what comes next will leave you speechless. Prophecy 4. The timing of the event. Have you ever stopped to think how sometimes time seems to conspire to show us something greater? That's exactly what happened with the incident involving Donald Trump. It wasn't just what happened, but when it happened, that makes all of this so fascinating. Let's go back to that Saturday, July 13th, 2024. An apparently ordinary day, but one that became a milestone in American history. Trump was in Butler, Pennsylvania, doing what politicians do, giving speeches, shaking hands, building support. No one could imagine what was about to happen, but here's the thing. This wasn't just any Saturday. It was the last Saturday before the convention that would nominate Trump as the presidential candidate. Think about that for a moment. Of all the possible days, the incident happened right at this crucial moment. In the Jewish tradition, each Saturday has a specific Torah reading designated for that day. And guess what the reading was for that specific Saturday? It was about the son of Aaron, one of the consecrated priests, returning to the place of his consecration. It's as if time itself were aligned for this moment, as if the Jewish calendar established millennia ago, were pointing to this specific event. It makes you think, doesn't it? But there's more. The convention that would follow would last several days. If we count the day of the incident and the days of the convention, we have exactly 7 days. 7 days. Does that remind you of something? In the Bible, the consecration of priests lasted exactly 7 days. It's as if the whole process, the incident, the recovery, the nomination, were part of a greater ritual, a ritual of consecration for a new kind of leadership. Now you might be thinking, but Trump is not a priest. And you're right. He's not. But what if this whole timing was a sign of something greater? What if it was a call not just for Trump, but for the entire American nation? Think about it. In the Bible, consecration was a moment of transformation. The priest completely dedicated himself to serving God and the people. Is this what is being asked of Trump and America? The timing of this event seems to tell us that we are at a crucial moment in history, a moment of decision, of transformation, a moment when each one of us is called to reflect on our role in this great drama we call life. And it's not just about politics, it's about something much bigger. It's about the fate of a nation, about the purpose of each one of us. Have you ever had moments like that in your life? Moments when the timing seemed too perfect to be a coincidence? Moments when you felt that something greater was at stake? Perhaps this incident with Trump is a call for all of us, a call to wake up, to pay attention, to realize that every moment, every decision we make can have a much greater impact than we realize. And what about you? What do you think? Do you see a greater meaning in this precise timing? Or do you think they are just coincidences? How does this change your view of the events happening around us? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about how we can be more attentive to the signs of the times in our own lives. How we can live each day with a sense of purpose and greater meaning. Remember, regardless of your political or religious beliefs, there is something powerful in being aware of the timing of events in our lives. Who knows what opportunities, what transformations may arise when we pay attention to the crucial moments that the universe seems to be showing us. Prophecy. The meaning of the place. Have you ever stopped to think that sometimes the place where things happen may have a much deeper meaning than we realize? It's as if every detail of our life was carefully planned by an invisible hand. And that's exactly what happened on that fateful day, July 13th, 2024. When the bullet grazed Trump's ear in Butler, Pennsylvania, something much greater than a simple assassination attempt was happening. It was as if the pages of history were coming to life before our eyes, without most of us realizing it. Have you ever heard about the origin of the word butler? It comes from the old French boutelier, which means butler or cupbearer. In the Bible and in ancient courts, the cupbearer had a crucial role to protect the king or ruler from assassination attempts, especially by poisoning. Isn't it incredible how even the name of the place where everything happened seems to have a deep meaning? As if it were a sign that there was divine protection acting at that moment. Trump himself declared that he was saved by the grace of Almighty God. Think about it. The Secret Service, trained to protect the president at all costs, failed, but something or someone intervened at the last second, making Trump turn his head at the exact fraction of a second so that the bullet did not hit a fatal point. It's as if the very place, Butler, was fulfilling its ancestral role of protecting the leader. This event makes us reflect on the fragility of life and how we are all just a heartbeat away from eternity. No matter how powerful or influential we are, we all depend on something greater than ourselves. And there's more. Butler is not just a name, it's a symbol of loyalty, trust, and protection. In history, cupbearers were handpicked by kings, as they had direct access to royal food and drink. They were the last line of defense against poisoning attempts. Could it be that God is using this symbolism to tell us something? Perhaps that, just like the ancient cupbearers, we should be vigilant, protecting not only our leaders, but also our values, our faith, our nation. And what about you? Have you ever had a moment in your life when the place where something happened seemed to have a special meaning? A place that changed the course of your story? Share your experience in the comments. Let's talk about those moments that make us question if there is something more happening beyond what our eyes can see. Remember, every place has a story to tell. Each name carries a meaning, and sometimes it is in the seemingly insignificant details that we find the greatest revelations. What happened in Butler, Pennsylvania that day may be more than a coincidence. It could be a reminder that there is a protective hand guiding the events of our lives and our nation. So, the next time you hear the name of a place, pause for a moment. Think about its meaning. Who knows? You might uncover a hidden message, a greater purpose behind the ordinary. What do you think? Was the name Butler just a coincidence, or is there something deeper going on? How does this change your perspective on the events happening in our nation and the world? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. Together, we can unravel the mysteries that surround us and find a greater purpose in every detail of our lives. This fifth prophecy really makes us think about the power of places, doesn't it? The name Butler carrying all this significance. It's incredible how even the smallest details seem to have a greater purpose. But before we continue, I want to remind you of something important. Remember that digital book I mentioned at the beginning? It's available for download right now. The link is in the first pinned comment. Don't miss this opportunity. The units are limited, and it could be taken down at any moment. Now get ready. The next prophecy is going to leave you breathless. Remember when we talked about divine protection? Well, what comes next will show you how this protection can manifest in ways we never imagined. Prophecy 6, Divine Intervention. Have you ever stopped to think about how sometimes life seems to take such unexpected turns that they can only be explained by something greater than ourselves? It's as if there is an invisible hand guiding the events, isn't it? Well, what happened to Donald Trump that day in Butler, Pennsylvania seems just like that. A divine intervention so clear that it makes us question everything we thought we knew about the world. Think about it for a moment. Trump was surrounded by the Secret Service, trained to protect him at all costs. But that day, all that human protection failed. The bullet passed so close it grazed his ear. By inches, the history of America would have changed completely. But something or someone intervened at the last second. Trump turned his head at the exact fraction of a second so that the bullet did not hit a fatal point. How do you explain that? Coincidence? Luck? Or was there something more at play? Trump himself said he was saved by the grace of Almighty God. And you know what's more incredible? The name of the place where all this happened, Butler, has a meaning that seems almost prophetic. Butler comes from the old French word boutelier, which means cupbearer or holder of the cup. In the Bible and ancient courts, the cupbearer had a crucial role to protect the king or ruler from assassination attempts, especially by poisoning. It's as if the very name of the place was proclaiming that there would be divine protection that day. The Secret Service failed, but the true butler, God, did not fail. It makes us think, doesn't it? How many times in our lives have we gone through dangerous situations without even realizing? How many times have we been protected by that invisible hand without even giving thanks? And there's more. After the shot, Trump fell to his knees, face down on the ground. Some may see this as just a security measure, but others interpret it as a sign of forced humility before God. The man that many see as one of the most powerful leaders in the world, literally on his knees, as if bowing before a greater power. This event makes us reflect on the fragility of life and how we are all just one heartbeat away from eternity. No matter how powerful or influential we may be, we all depend on something greater than ourselves. But what about you? Have you ever had a moment in your life when you felt that divine protection? A moment when you narrowly escaped something terrible and knew deep in your heart that it wasn't just luck. Perhaps it's time for us to stop and reflect on these divine interventions in our lives, to be thankful for each day, every moment we have. Because, as Trump said after the incident, every moment we have on earth is a gift from God. And if this event is a call not just for Trump, but for all of us, a call to recognize our dependence on God, to live with gratitude and purpose, regardless of your political or religious beliefs, we cannot deny that there is something profoundly moving and significant in this event. It reminds us that there are greater forces at play than we can comprehend, and that perhaps we should be more attentive to the signs around us. What do you think? Do you see God's hand in this event? Or do you think it was just an incredible coincidence? How does this change your view on divine protection and the role of God in our lives? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about these experiences that make us question if there is something more happening beyond what our eyes can see, because in the end, perhaps it is these stories of divine intervention that remind us of our shared humanity and our connection to something greater than ourselves. Prophecy 7. The call to consecration. Have you ever stopped to think that sometimes the most dramatic events in our lives can be a call to something greater? It's as if the universe is shouting to get our attention, waking us from a deep sleep, and that's exactly what happened on that fateful day, July 13th, 2024, when the bullet grazed Trump's ear, leaving that blood mark. Something much greater than a simple assassination attempt was happening. It was as if the pages of the Bible were coming to life before our eyes, unnoticed by most of us. This event was not just about Trump. It was a call for the entire American nation, and perhaps for the whole world, to consecrate themselves to God. Think about it. In the Bible, consecration was a moment of transformation. The priest fully dedicated himself to serving God and the people. Is that what is being asked of Trump in America? The blood-marked ear could symbolize the need to hear God's voice. How many times have we, as a nation, forgotten to stop and listen? Are we so busy with our own plans and ambitions that we forget to tune into a higher frequency? The hand that touched the blood could represent the importance of acting according to divine will. It's not enough just to listen. We need to put into practice what we learn. What would our nation be like if every decision, every policy, every action were guided by divine principles? And the bare feet, they could symbolize the humility needed to walk on sacred ground. Perhaps it's a reminder that no matter how powerful we become as a nation, we must always remember where we came from and to whom we owe our existence. This event makes us reflect on the role of leadership, on our responsibility as citizens, and on the possibility of a greater call for our lives. It's not just about politics. It's about a spiritual awakening. Imagine if each of us took this call to consecration seriously, if we dedicated our ears to listening to God's voice, our hands to doing His will, and our feet to walking in His ways. What would our nation be like? What would our world be like? Perhaps this is the true challenge that this event presents to us. It's not just about Trump or politics, it's about each one of us. It's a call for us to awaken spiritually, to dedicate ourselves to something greater than ourselves. And here is the challenge for you. For 1 week, consciously dedicate yourself to this consecration. Each morning, upon waking up, touch your right ear and commit to listening to God's voice that day. Touch your right hand and promise to use it to do good. And before putting on your shoes, remember to walk with humility. At the end of this week, reflect on how this practice has changed your perspective, your actions, your life. Share your experience in the comments. Who knows, together we might start a movement of consecration that transforms our nation and our world. What do you think? Do you accept this challenge? Are you ready to dedicate yourself to a greater purpose? The choice is yours. But remember, just as Trump was saved by centimeters and milliseconds, each of us is just one heartbeat away from eternity. What will we do with the time we've been given? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Let's create a community of people dedicated to living a consecrated life. regardless of our political or religious beliefs. Who knows what change we can create together? What an incredible journey we have traveled together through these 7 prophecies, right? I hope you have felt the power and meaning behind each of them. Now, before we finish, I have a special request for you. If this video touched your heart in any way, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends and family. Who knows how many lives could be impacted by this message? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We have much more amazing content coming, and I don't want you to miss anything. Lastly, if you accepted the challenge of the last prophecy, leave a comment below. Your experience may inspire others to do the same. Thank you for being here. Together we can make a difference.